Hello, hi everyone.
Hello.
Good
More
morning.
people joining.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome. All right. We might have a few more people join. Um, just just so you're aware, we are recording because we'll share this out with a couple of our other community partners who are interested and can't be here today. So up to you if you want to leave your camera on or off, totally up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. But just want to make you aware that we are recording. Um, but welcome everyone. We're excited to have you here for the Source Service Scholars CBO project information session. I think I have met everyone in this room, but I'm Lydia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm assistant director here at Source.
Everyone. Thank you all so much for being here today. My name is Janae Johnson, pronoun she, her, hers, and I serve as the Assistant Director for Academic Service Learning.
Awesome. All right, so we're going to dive in and start sharing a little bit more about the Source Service Scholars Program. And then we'll definitely have time at the end for Q&A and to like workshop any ideas too. So just want to name that now. So our agenda today, we'll go through just a quick overview of Source and our community engaged guiding principles because those are really grounded in how this program is designed. So it's good to kind of give that quick overview. We'll go through the general overview of the SSS program, give you some ideas of example projects or example topics. We'll go through the preceptor responsibilities. We'll talk about the project proposal itself. And then, like I said, at the end, we'll kind of be saving that time for Q&A, workshopping ideas, all of that fun stuff. I just want to name too, if you're someone who's watching this recording and would like some assistance with workshopping, etc., or if you're on this call live and we need more time or you want to bring in more teammates, Janae and I are always very happy to book additional time with you and to kind of brainstorm ideas that are a fit for your organization. Okay, so Source, our mission is to engage the JHU health professional schools and Baltimore communities in mutually beneficial partnerships that promote health and social justice. So one thing to note, if you haven't done one of these longitudinal programs with us before, one of the great things about the JHU health professional schools, these are all graduate level students in the schools of medicine, nursing, and public health. So these are students that are coming in, with a much higher level of professionalism, responsibility, experiences in the workforce, and a much higher skill set than if you were potentially working with undergrad students or different level of students. Our values include reciprocity, justice, service, and collaboration. So these are our guiding principles for Baltimore community engagement if you haven't seen these before. So this is really ingrained in how this program is built, and we'll talk a little bit more about how these values show up in this work too. But shared vision and values, mutuality and respect, transparency and communication, shared decision making, and commitment. One thing that we want to talk about a little bit more that's at the heart of this program is service learning. Service learning is really different than just straight volunteerism because this is combining community service with preparation and reflection. We are working in response to a community identified concern. So that's really the heart of this program is like we're not prescribing what project students should be working on. We really want this to be a value to you and something that's coming from an organizational need, which is why we're happy to help you brainstorm ideas and happy to help you kind of workshop some things, but it really is something that we're not prescribing. It's something that comes from your organization. So with that, I'll continue on and tell you a little bit more about the parameters of the SSS program. So this is a unique opportunity for students to make a long-term commitment to a single Baltimore community-based organization. It requires 125 hours of service hours or services between August through May. So August of 2026 all the way through May of 2027. So this includes, we do have a monthly source academic session. We call it the Source Academy. It's about 2.5 hours a month where students are meeting with Janae and myself. We're going through things like service learning pedagogy. We're going through a lot of the project management skills that they'll need to carry out these projects. And in addition to that, they also, the students also have a monthly check-in with their source advisor. So again, either me or Janae. So that's a part of those 125 hours. Students are maintaining a consistent presence with their CBO throughout the project. They're committing on average about 4 hours a week to their project. This is open to any student enrolled in the JHU Schools of Public Health, Medicine, and Nursing. And scholars lead a small team of student volunteers on projects. So we ask that students recruit a minimum of 4 volunteers. They can engage more students in service. A lot of that's going to depend on what your project is and what the need for volunteers is. Interested CBOs must have ideas for volunteer role and recruitment. We'll definitely be supporting the scholar with recruitment, but we want to make sure that we're doing it within parameters that are, you know, something maybe that is within the wheelhouse of your organization, or something that, you know, you feel is in alignment with your organization's values and regular practices. So as I mentioned, scholars are receiving training from us alongside as they're doing the work in your organization. So we'll talk about things like service learning theories and reflection practices, interprofessional core competencies, project management, volunteer recruitment, and delivering and reporting on outcomes. So these trainings are delivered through the Source Service Academy sessions on a monthly basis, and then their one-on-one advising sessions with their source advisor. So I was talking before about the source values for community engaged work. That's really ingrained in how this program is built. So let's kind of dive a little bit more into what that looks like. So shared vision and value. This is something where, like, the CBO, you know, you are sharing kind of your vision for this project. We're working alongside you. The source preceptor does complete a module as well, so that, you know, you're working alongside the students as well. We'll get into that in a moment. Mutuality and respect. We're providing guidance and communication alongside the preceptors throughout the entire academic year and collaborating together. Transparency and communication. The organization, the CBO, they do have a primary and a secondary preceptor. We'll get into that a little bit more later on, why that's required. But that just really helps us with that transparency and communication component. And just transparency and communication in terms of your expectations for the scholar too, in terms of their workload being on site, hybrid, what your expectations are. We ask the student for a high level of transparency too, in terms of their course scheduling capacity. Shared decision making. So you are proposing the responsibilities, the deliverables, outcomes, ideas for possible volunteers, roles, and projects. Like I said, we're not prescribing that to you. That's something that comes from your organizational needs. And then finally, commitment. Janae and I are committed to meeting with scholars on a monthly basis for academy, meeting with scholars on a monthly individual basis for their advising, but we're also going to be meeting with you on a monthly basis as well for brief check-ins to make sure that we're all really aligned and that everyone is kind of aligned on the project and benefiting and that things are moving forward as planned. CBO projects and preceptors. So SSS projects should be Baltimore focused, social justice oriented collaborations. I would say that the majority of projects right now are either fully on site or hybrid to some amount. Maybe where the student is expected to be on site maybe one shift a week, but then if they're doing like volunteer outreach or things that can be done maybe via email, they could do, an hour or two hybrid. So keep that in mind as you're designing your project and submitting that proposal. We do ask that there is some level of kind of in-person components between your scholar with your CBO to really build that relationship. If you're asking for fully remote service, that's something that you would definitely want to run by Janae and myself so that we can discuss the parameters of that project. So CBO projects, you're developing an academic year-long project, supervising and mentoring scholars to the completion of the service collaboration. This year we have up to 12 source service scholars for the next academic year. I just want to name that because I know in the past we've had 14 to 15. So this is a slight change from previous years. Depending on how many proposals we receive, we might not be able to accept every single project. So I just want to name that up front. Janae and I will be, transparent in all of our decisions as we begin to receive proposals. This project is designed not to bring students on as interns, but project managers. So students are focusing on one specific project. It's not like they're an intern that's showing up and kind of learning what they'll be doing at the start of each shift, maybe based off of what's going on that day. They're focusing on carrying out one project throughout the entire term of their project. So to break down a little bit more, an intern, maybe they're worked on general tasks and assignments. They may or may not involve others with the completion of a task. They're just kind of assisting, things like that. The project manager, which is the role that the students occupy in the Source Service Scholars Program, they're working on a specific project. They're interviewing with you and you are determining which student or students you want to work with. You'll be ranking them and then we'll be kind of doing that final matchmaking. But you'll be, interviewing eligible students to see who's the best match for that project. You'll be working from a mutually designed plan of action toward a final deliverable. That's something that, for those of you who've done this program before, you'll know about the project plan that students build throughout this program so that you have kind of a designed plan of action. The project manager also brings in a team of volunteers to move the project to completion. And then finally, the project plan and strategy morphs as needed to move the project to completion. That is something that I get questions about a lot. And I think in the past has been maybe something where a CBO has kind of hesitated to join a project because they can't necessarily predict certain outcomes a year ahead of now. And I just want to say that we are aware that things change. For example, I have a student right now who there were some things in her project plan that had to change based off of the delay of a building opening. So there's no like repercussions or no problems with that. We definitely understand that timelines and things change. And we're always happy to be agile and kind of pivot the project plan as needed based on organizational changes. CBO preceptors are expected to ensure that there are 2 points of contact for your organization. So that's the primary preceptor and the secondary preceptor. The reason behind that is it's helpful to have 2 points of contact who are aware of the project itself and are able to support the student. We've had situations in the past where maybe unexpectedly one person who's the primary preceptor goes on leave or leaves an organization, and it can be really sudden. And if there isn't a second person who's kind of aware and supportive of the project, that can really halt things in their tracks. So we do need 2 points of contact from your organization as first and primary and secondary preceptor. Completing the source online preceptor module, we require that of the primary preceptor and only once every 3 years. So if you've completed that preceptor module for a different source program within the last 3 years, no need to do that. If you haven't done that and that's a step you're completing, we'll ask you to do that once your proposal has been accepted, and then you'll have until August to do that step. It's not a huge undertaking. It's definitely less than an hour, probably closer to half an hour, to be honest, to complete that step. Other expectations, you're supervising the scholar and recruited volunteers over the term of the project. This typically requires some kind of orientation to the CBO. We want you to definitely include your organizational values and justice work. You'll establish regular meetings and communication with your scholar. You'll provide appropriate guidance for the scholar to complete the project within their academic year. You'll meet monthly with Janae and or myself. When I say meet monthly, I know that sounds like a pretty big lift. That's kind of a new task that we're adding for this upcoming year. If you've done this project in the past, this can be as simple as like a 15-minute phone call, Teams call, whatever you want. But we just want to make sure that we're getting regular pulse points with our CBO preceptors to really understand how to best support you. And then you're ensuring the continuity of the project by working with the scholar on a sustainability plan. So what happens after the scholar graduates and leaves? Does the scholar need to do some trainings before they leave? Are there SOPs that are accessible for your organization? What is that sustainability component? You'll also complete a mid-year and final evaluation and remain flexible with reasonable changes in the scholar's schedule or program structure. So that can mean, if one semester you're meeting with a student on site from noon to 1 on Mondays, but the next term, now they have class at that time, it would be reasonable to expect that the CBO can maybe change what their expectations are for the student's on-site schedule if the student's class schedule changes. All right, I'm going to hand things over to Janae to take us a little bit further into specific project examples.
Thank you so much, Lydia. So yeah, we'll go over a few of our project examples from what the scholar could do, ideas for what the scholar work could look like, and as well as what the volunteers that the source service scholar is required to recruit could also work on. So 5 of these examples are, for one, implementation of health-related curriculum or educational workshops, community outreach, so it can be partnering with different organizations, developing different social media outreach and marketing activities, advocacy, so it could be working on awareness campaigns, program design, so whether that be a new program or even a program that you would like to maybe revamp or have more evaluation into, and as well as the service extension of your organization. So again, maybe your organization has identified ongoing needs for volunteers. Maybe there is needs for different types of volunteer management support and training processes. This is just a few of the examples. And then in the next couple of slides, again, we'll talk a little bit about this more further. So for the first one, the implementation of health-related curriculum, you may see for the role of the scholar, it may be developing maybe like an evidence-based curriculum. Maybe there is a need to kind of update and retailor some of those components a part of it, reaching out to volunteers to help with maybe doing client surveys to assist with doing that curriculum review. And again, building out the curriculum based on whatever feedback comes from those surveys, from the population in which your organizations may serve. And then for the role of the volunteer that the source service scholar would recruit, they could also work and assist with examining the curriculum as well. They could also help with implementing and carrying out those surveys to your populations, as well as helping compile reports based on those findings as well too. As far as community outreach, some of the scholars' work could look like researching different organizations or agencies that may be helpful to add into you all's partnership and helping develop a plan for that as well too. As far as what the volunteers' role could look like in those regards, they could help conduct some of those interviews with those businesses or nonprofit organizations to kind of help streamline the process as well. As far as like projects that are more in the focus of advocacy, you may see the source service scholar develop plans that help for the awareness campaigns. You may see them help create and implement different events. You may see them also help with like social media. There's always a need to improve social media strategies to also promote those different campaigns or events, as well as helping with engagement, getting volunteers, helping with logistics, and also grant writing as well. You may see for the role of the volunteer also assisting with a lot of those logistics for like events or outreach opportunities, as well as assisting with social media endeavors as well. For the service extension of your organization, that may look like designing volunteer recruitment events. It may also look like training orientations, reflection activities for your volunteers as well. And then the role of a volunteer, if you're trying to make those partnerships with different organizations, different sectors, they could also help with like coordinating meetings and phone calls and doing that outreach to those organizations as well. And they could also help, of course, with leading reflection sessions and orientations that may be necessary to carry this out. So here we'll talk a little bit about like the important key dates for this upcoming cohort. As you all know, our applications are now open. They opened on the 14th and they'll be open until May 11th. Again, not just this one info session. Lydia and myself are always happy to brainstorm with you all, draft proposals with you based on the needs that you may share. So do not hesitate to reach out to us if you have any hiccups or you're wanting to kind of just talk more through things. Between May 11th and May 22nd, our internal source team will actually review these applicants. We really will try to like shortlist for you all to kind of have the top candidates based on the application submitted. And so not even just that, we will also follow up with you all if there's any things that we may have clarity, that we may need extra clarity on that came from your proposal, and just different things like that. So finalizing what your project will look like is one of the key things that we will do as soon as we end the deadline. As far as May 26th to June 22nd, we'll be starting our recruitment for the students. Students will also have an info session where we'll give them all the expectations and what's coming up with this new cohort so that they're well aware. And then they will also have the opportunity to apply up until June 22nd. June 22nd through June 2nd, our internal source team will look through these applicants. We'll kind of shortlist based on what our team comes up with score-wise. Again, we hope to have about 3 to 4 students as your top candidates. We're also hoping to add a new component as well, which is possibly doing like a short like phone screening as well, just to make sure that we're getting you the best 3 to 4 candidates that we'll pass over and recommend. But you all from July 7th through the 24th is where you will actually, those 3 or 4 students that we send over to you, you'll have the opportunity to interview. That can be in person, that can be via Zoom. Just a disclaimer that a lot of our students, especially being that we work with 3 different schools, will probably be out on like summer vacation. Some of them may not be back in the city yet. So it is always helpful to be really flexible with that modality. Again, we hope to have at least 4 students that we can pass over to you based on our top rankings. So just make sure that you all who are going to serve as the 2 preceptors are making sure to mark on your calendars that window to conduct those interview sessions. By July 24th, we would need to have your rankings on your students. So again, if you have 4 students, you would rank your 4 students, your top 4, and then you would give it back to us. And so we would then go ahead and coordinate things from there. From July 28th to August 1st, the preceptor and students, you all will be notified of the match. And then summer of 2025, as you all are getting prepared to start the cohort, you're expected to also complete the Source Online Preceptor module, which Lydia mentioned earlier. If you have already done this module, part of like this program or another program within the 3 years, you're perfectly fine. But if you haven't, that is what should be taking place this summer. And that should say summer 2026, so our apologies. And then for late August, early September is when we're going to have our first Source Service Scholar session. We'll also plan to have you all join one of those sessions as well to kind of be able to start working on the work plan, so what that project will look like, as well as kind of talk about the expectations and how this process kind of goes over the course of the next year. All right, so we'll get to a couple of our frequently asked questions. The first one being that the proposed project, is it really for just one student internship project, or is it suitable for a Source Service Scholar project? To answer that is it really needs to be a project that the students and a student team can manage and also have a final deliverable by the end of the academic year. So again, as Lydia mentioned with the intern versus like project manager, this is again something that you want to make sure has the sustainability and the ability to last an entire academic year. So you want to make sure it's not like just a one-time thing or a very small task, something that you know could take over the course of one academic year. I've had a Source Service Scholar in the past. Can I apply for another one? So yes, we always recommend, even if you have already had a Source Service Scholar before, that you all continue to apply. Of course, we can never guarantee that any organization's project will be accepted, as we only have 12 slots this year, and the previous years it's been about 15. So we again do not guarantee anything, but we also do still encourage you all to apply again. It can't be, however, the same SSS project that you all have conducted before, but we always welcome like continuations or different like pivots from previous projects that's been conducted before, or it can be something completely different as well too. Our next question being, why do we need 2 preceptors from our organization? So to answer that, 2 preceptors are typically what we require, because we want to ensure that the Source Service Scholar is aware of the work that the scholar is doing, and also supporting the Source Service Scholar throughout the duration of the project. If any challenges may come up, or just having that guidance there, it's absolutely necessary to possibly have like a second person as well that could be a point of contact, which is why we highly recommend having at least 2. We always encourage that the student is getting very immersed in the organization, so not just knowing those 2 preceptors, but at least having those 2 preceptors that they know is a solid and go-to point of contact if there is any questions or any guidance that they may need. How many hours per week will the Source Service Scholar, will they be working regularly on their schedules? So to answer that, typically our scholars work for about 4 hours each week. It kind of it's a bit flexible. We don't require that the Source Service Scholar work 4 hours every single week. Maybe that will fluctuate and look differently. That is really in accordance to you all and the schedule that you all adapt. However, the scholar does have to complete 124 hours by the end of the Source Service Scholar academic year, which is like April of 2027. It's up to you all to kind of create that schedule, what that expectation looks like, as well as being accommodating to the student schedule as well. So they will also have their academic obligations. And we also understand as well too that you all have other things that you run in your organization. So we want to make sure this doesn't become anything overwhelming, but a schedule that works for both you and the student. And then our last question, I'm a busy professional. How much supervision is needed of the scholar? Again, always understand that you all are extremely busy people, so we want to make sure that you understand that the scholar will also be getting support from myself and from Lydia as well, but that we ask that the preceptor has the capacity to at least establish like supervision hours with the Source Service Scholar. So maybe it's not you all meet on a weekly basis, but maybe it's a bi-weekly basis and so forth. We just want to make sure that there is transparency and open communication across the board. So we don't want to overwhelm you all as the preceptors, but we want to also make sure it's a preceptor that has at least the capacity to be able to have that established rapport, that established meeting time with the source service scholar. And then, of course, like I said, our applications are now open. They'll be open until May 11th. And as always, we are more than happy to answer any questions, sit through the proposal, and actually kind of talk about different ideas that you may have. So do not hesitate to reach out to myself or to Lydia. I don't think there's any other things that I have to add, but of course, we want to leave room for questions. And Lydia, if there was anything else that maybe I missed before we continue to open it up for questions, feel free to add too.
No, you handled it. I would say too, if you're not sure if an organizational need or idea fits the Source Service Scholar program, reach out to us, because we can help you workshop things, or we might say, hey, actually, what you're mentioning is totally a match for this other source program. So if you're in doubt, just reach out, and that's what we're here for, is to help make a match. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. And then the folks that are here, we can, you know, if you have questions, then we can spend some time chatting. So give me a moment here. My apologies. Where's the record?